bag. This is an authentic bag which the Buffalo soldiers took with them on the period.
Wow.
Everything you see up here that's Buffalo-ish was given to me at one time or another at one of our reunions, including this bag. And I always keep my speech in the bag so I know where it is.
Amen.
But my speech won't be for so long because I'm not a long speaker early in the morning. But the fact of the matter is I'm here, and thanks to Kitty.
And me bugging you.
For recommending me to Kathy. And I haven't did this speech in so long, I didn't even know where to start. But however, I will give it to my best shot. Amen. But observing the Veterans Day celebration. Veterans, men of color, have been participating in each one of our conflicts ever since the country started. All the way from day one, the Revolutionary War, until the present day, which is Afghanistan and Iraq. But let's pause for a little while. Let's pause to 1866. That's leading up from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. The Civil War started back there when we were trying to be emancipated. We all know that story. We won't have to get into that. However, after the Civil War, about a year and about 3 months, or a year and 3 months after the Civil War, there came a catastrophe, so to speak, in this country. And the catastrophe led to the fact that the government, Congress, entertained the idea of revolutionize our armed forces like we did today. 1866. That's what that 66 means. 1866, where they reorganized the armed forces like we did today. And out of that reorganization, 6 black units was established. Of course, you know, this was still a segregation days. 6 black units, 2 cavalry, and 4 infantry units was started. The cavalry was the 9th and 10th. The infantry was the 38th, the 39th, the 40th, and the 41st Infantry Regiment. Out of those 4 infantry regiments became 2 regiments. 24th Regiment and the 25th Regiment. Now I have to tell you this. The 24th Regiment is how I got in the Buffalo Soldier thing. I was railroaded, of course. But the fact of the matter is, I was in the 24th Regiment, which was the last all-black outfit in the regular army. That wasn't by design on my part. That was something else. After the, if I can get my speech together, what did those regiments do? Now, perhaps that's a good question, and maybe it's not. Those regiments started, when I say they, those other people, they started the regiment because we have been spreading out to the west. And we met with such a force that something had to be done. They met up with the Native Americans. They call them Indians. But the Indians were kicking them around. So they get back and say, look, black soldiers did pretty good in the Civil War, let's go back and get them. how the black regiment started.
Wow.
We did a pretty good job. We did a very good job. We went, let's say, I think about 10 years after they organized the black organization. We stayed, when I say we, the soldiers of color, we stayed from Montana all the way down to Texas, everything in between. Arizona, New Mexico, and even into Mexico. Peacekeeping, trying to peacekeep the Indians, try to keep them in order. You know how it is. They say want to keep them together. We did a pretty good job. Now, they ran up against some of the best fighting Indians, Native Americans, that you can name. Geronimo, Christian, Narden, Pancho Villa, and the list go on, but we did a magnificent job in trying to curtail or try to keep the peace in the West. Do you know the Buffalo Soldiers got their name? You would think that you would think that when somebody fighting you or trying to kick your behind, that you would be, let's say, mad with them. No, the Indians was good people. They gave the black soldiers the name of Buffalo Soldiers, and I think if I had some hair, you can see why they call us Buffalo Soldiers, because our hair looks something like the Buffalo Soldiers' hair or fur. But that wasn't it all entirely. They admired the buffalo because they depended on the buffalo for everything of their livelihood. Clothing, shoes, housing, which is the teepee, all of this came from the buffalo. Food, you eat the buffalo. They didn't kill anything unless they could go use it. And they used everything from the buffalo. And the buffalo was dependable, stamina, courage, and reliable. And they saw this in the black soldiers. All of those things that I just said. And they nicknamed us the Buffalo Soldiers. And if you nickname something, if you name something after something that you admire, then there must be something, you're doing something right. And the name of Buffalo Soldiers stuck with all the black units throughout the campaign. I thought that was pretty good, because when I fight me, they're not going to be something that I like. They're going to be something that I don't like. But this is the way the Buffalo Soldiers got, this is how the Buffalo Soldiers, the black soldiers, got the name. And I thought it was a courageous thing.
Amen.
The units of the 9th to 10th. The 9th was established in Fort Leavenworth, Missouri. Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The 10th was organized in Greenville, Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. 24th, around about Georgia area. The 25th, Jackson Barracks in Louisiana also. This is where they came from. Now you might ask, where did the Buffalo Soldiers come from? Now that's a good question. Where did any of us came from? 1866. Most of us came out of slavery. There were some free states that some of the Buffalo Soldiers came out of too. But there's a thing about coming out of slavery which reflects on what our mentality was. They say, and they still say, what happened? What happened to your story? What happened to the Buffalo Soldier story? We didn't have the education because it was illegal for us to go to school. We didn't have the education to pass on or keep records of what we did. That is where history came in. Do you know that if you want to tell a story, and the Buffalo Soldiers had a good story, that was the best good secret, however, that we have in this country. In organizing the history of our country, the Buffalo Soldier was just as important as the Chevrolet, the hot dog, Grandma's apple pie. It was just as important, but that bit of information was a secret because we did not tell our story. Up until about 20, 25 years ago, nobody knew about the Buffalo Soldiers. Well, some of us did, we talked a little bit. But all the stories that came out of the West, mostly, was written by somebody else. History. Buffalo Soldiers history. And if somebody is telling a story, they're going to tell it like they want to tell it.
All right.
History. H-I-S. S-T-O-R-Y. History. His story. And if they're going to tell your story that they want to tell it, they're going to tell it like they want to tell it. As simple as that. But whereas if you tell your own story, you're not going to leave out the cracks. Everything is going to be in place like it should be. That's why our history was left untold. Well, I looked in, let's see, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago. I was looking at a black history book about 8 things. A black history book, 8 things. Had an article about the Buffalo Soldiers, about that many paragraphs of that many lines. We didn't tell our own story. The organizing of the Buffalo Soldiers, the 1910th Cavalry, 24th Regiment Association, wanted to put a stop to all of that. Our main thing was to get the story about the Buffalo Soldiers in the classroom, in the textbook. I think my granddaughter was going to school and she asked me about the Buffalo Soldiers. I wanted a long story. The following year, she looked in the book and there was a story about the Buffalo Soldiers, and my eyes lit up a mile long because we have been successful in putting the story about the Buffalo Soldiers in the textbook because our young people will know what problems we had or trying to get ourselves together from slavery. It wasn't an overnight deal, but it was something that had to be done, and who was going to do it? You got to do it yourself. His story. So what happened? We had museums popping up all over the world, Buffalo Soldier Museum. Notably, one in Houston, Texas. started by one of my friends. I went to Houston once to see a friend. And this guy, one of my friends, was going to take me to this museum. I didn't know where he was going. But when Betty and I walked into the door, walked upstairs to all the artifacts from Buffalo Soldiers, the guy that was in there, he said, well, I bet y'all. Look what the people left out of Georgia. I mean, New York. Look what the people let out of New York. I know him. My friend said, you know him? You know I'm from Jersey. That was one of the best things in the world because we had started a revolution of having a monument. Another thing, we have Buffalo Soldier statues that have been erected all over the country. Betty and I went to the one in the dedication of the Buffalo Soldier Monument in Fort Leavenworth. What happened was that our Colin Powell was this assistant master, assistant commandant of West Point. He looked around. He looked around and saw there was nothing to say that the Buffalo Soldiers started there, back there in 1866, or perhaps a little bit later. He started a program. He started a program that he's going to make a statue. That statue. And out of that statue, other statues appeared. We saw one of the best statues outside of Fort Raleigh, Kansas. This horse stood about 8 feet and had a Buffalo Soldier standing by. There was a statue that we went to dedication in Fort Sheldon, New Mexico. This statue depicted, it showed that it was standing guard, like a liaison. And if he had a binoculars in his hand. If he had the binoculars up there, that means he sees the enemy. But if he had the binoculars down, that means it's clear to go. Do that mean anything to us? It should. Why? You know that song said, I couldn't hear nobody pray. That means when that song was sung in slavery, that means the gathering that the slaves had that night, the master didn't know it happened. So the people in the big house said, I couldn't hear nobody pray. That means the master didn't know that they had a meeting and the coast was clear. The binoculars. The binoculars to tell them that the coast was clear or not clear. That was some of the job that the Buffalo Soldiers did. We went to Denver, Denver. This was important because I didn't even know anything about it. I decided I want to go to Montana. Drove up this highway to Montana and ran into a herd of buffalo. I was in my world. Why? Because the Buffalo Soldiers. You know how that is. Before we got anywhere near it, there was an image on top of a mountain. I said, Betty, that looked like a buffalo up there. And as close as we got to that hill, sure enough, there was a statue of a buffalo. That's where the buffalo was. And I started admiring the buffalo more so then. The guy said, don't go nowhere near him. And he didn't have no problem with me going nowhere near him. But what happened? when you're dealing with the opposition, you gotta think like they think. But you can't let your guard down for any reason. The little kids, guys walking around with the pants down on behind. Oh, God, you know what I mean. That's not American. We got to do something about that kind of thing. And it started with us, the parents. Native Americans look at us in admiration because we did this, we did that, where they was concerned. But when it comes down to where we are concerned, we are shortchanged. We're shortchanging ourselves. But that's all right. We'll get there. Sooner or later, we are going to get there. The Buffalo Soldiers, let's say there's units of the Buffalo Soldiers, have all the information that anybody can get in order to be successful. Successful in putting the book information in the books. Successful in getting museums. Successful in getting a black president in office. That's success. And if you think about it, that's a long way from where we came from. Courage. When you're talking about the Buffalo Soldier, courage, stamina. During the Civil War, do you know we as black people got 23 Medal of Honors. 23 Medal of Honors, numerous of citations, unit citations and individual citations for gallantry. The Buffalo, gallantry. And we still get it. Fortunately, or should I say unfortunately, I wound up in Korea with the 24th Infantry Regiment. That infantry regiment received 2 Congressional Medal of Honor. I can't tell you how many Silver Star, Bronze Star, CIB, which is the infantry combat thing, Purple Heart. You name it, we got it. And these are people who didn't know who they say didn't know. These are people who do not know what to do at any time. But these are good people. These are people that use their hand. When we was in Fort Sill, we saw barracks. This was no more than about 10 years ago. We saw barracks that was built by slaves, ex-slaves, and still standing today and still in use. This was built by people of color. You can't do it? Hogwash. You can do it. The Buffalo Soldiers, which I am proud to say that I was a part of it. Of course, when I was in the unit, I didn't know I was a Buffalo Soldier. Because I only found out later the history behind us. That's what this thing is all about. The guy asked me, said, "Are you going to the parade?" I said, "No, I've been there and I've done that." In other words, there's a parade, Veterans Day parade in New York City. And I've been there and I've done that so many times. And when you get this age, you don't feel like be going every place. As a matter of fact, you don't even feel like getting up early in the morning. But I did it. But it's something that had to be done. And we have to reach out and do what we have to do when we do it, when it is called. You'll find a whole lot of information on these tables and chairs. I gather everything I possibly can where information, where it's educational. That clown there, that's my grandson. You know, he has so many questions. And you got to answer the question when the kids ask you. You got to. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Come this way. I'm gonna go there.
You might want to knock them on the head, but you got to. During the Buffalo Soldier era, there was chaplains. There was black graduate from West Point. One of the black guys, the first black graduate was Henry Flipper. Henry O. Flipper. They did not want to talk to the guy, but he graduated. 4 years later, being ostracized by his classmates. And then when he got out of the West Point, he was sent on the field, 10th Cavalry. Do you know he got a dishonorable discharge from the military for some trumped up charges of saying he stole money from the PX, because that's what he was in charge of. And then he was fraternized by the enlisted man, with the enlisted man. Now the white officer didn't talk to him, and he was brought up on charges for talking to the black subordinate. That was asinine, but it happened. But thank be to God, many years later, he spent a lot of time trying to clear his name. Many years later, we had a guy in the White House. His name was William Jefferson Clinton. All right. And he was a son of the two. He exonerated Lieutenant Flipper. Well, Lieutenant Flipper was dead and gone then. But he did it. I got pictures of some of his. Clinton exonerated Flipper. Why did I bring up Flipper's name? Flipper's brother was an AMEC bishop, and he was a bishop out there with Payne. His nephew, his grandnephew, Flipper, I met him. But what happened is he asked me, when he found out I was from Newark,